Confession and consequences. I never abused BS. I never hit him. He never tried to control me. I had friends and I thought we were on equal footing. I wanted a child so bad, and we were waiting to try. We were almost there. But beneath that freedom, I felt suffocated by the social contract of marriage. I started sneaking weekends away. I met someone who listened to complaints I had buried. I met him in mid-April at a friend's gathering after work. He was freelancing on a project for my company, and when we started talking, I felt strangely at ease. Over the next few days, we exchanged messages about books and music, and it felt like the first time in months, even years, someone was really paying attention to me. The Friday after I agreed to meet him at a small wine bar downtown. We talked for hours until the lights came on, and he walked me to my car. I got home late with my heart pounding more from excitement than the drive. By the end of that week, we were meeting twice a week. First at quiet cafes where we'd sit and laugh about everything and nothing. Then he invited me up to his apartment by the train station. In his bedside drawer, I found a box of Trojan ultra-thin condoms, which he said he always bought. We used one each time, careful but tense, both knowing how badly it could explode if anyone found out. One weekend in early May, I stayed at his place while my husband was out of town. We cooked pasta together, went for long walks in the park, and stayed up talking until morning. After I went home, every time my phone buzzed, I'd hide it under my pillow and delete messages I thought might look suspicious. I knew it was just a lapse that would end as soon as I cleared my head. By late May, I felt torn between home and this new rush of attention. I missed my life, but I kept telling myself one more meeting before I stopped. Even then, I knew I had crossed a line I might never be able to uncross. Last month, I realized I had betrayed the trust of the person I once promised forever to. It was then my BS found 2 condom wrappers shoved in the drawer of our side table. They weren't his brand, and in that moment, everything I'd tried to hide spilled out. What started as a few stolen hours became 6 weeks of betrayal I could no longer deny. I tearfully tried to explain I needed space, said I could not be weighed down by promises I once thought would protect us. But he told me he saw me as someone who had walked away from us. He refused to stay in a marriage where I no longer felt bound. He offered divorce now, stay apart for 2 or 3 months to figure out if love could exist outside a contract. I argued that marriage mattered if we were going to raise a kid. I would not drag a baby through alternating weeks in 2 homes, but he would not budge. The future we had drawn on the kitchen whiteboard faded a little more that night. He packed his bag and said he would start the divorce next week. After that night, I struggled to breathe in our home. I asked for some space and he left the next morning. I packed up what I could carry and moved to my father's place across town in early June. Every familiar corner felt like evidence of my mistake. I signed up for therapy to unpack my anger and the reasons I looked outside our marriage. I started a simple workout routine in my father's garage, jogging at dawn to clear my mind. I quit smoking and wrote my horoscope on sticky notes by the bathroom mirror. I thought if I changed my habits, I could undo the damage. I sent him progress reports almost every day, hoping my effort might remind him the woman he married was still there. But he stayed firm that the divorce would move forward. He offered to help with paperwork to keep my mind off tasks he said were too painful. He spoke about self-healing and finding selfish love, but offered no emotional support. I wanted to believe he only needed time, but his stance was discouraging. I remembered how we once sneered at a friend who admitted his own betrayal and promised to rebuild trust. He never believed it possible. Now we've switched places and I am the one asking forgiveness, and he's still sneering. Update: acceptance and goodbye. It's come to an end. R is no longer an option. After yet another week of mixed signals, I finally accepted he would not change his mind. I stopped sending updates and deleted drafts of emails begging for another chance. One afternoon, I returned to our empty house to collect the last of my things. I packed up photos of us at the lake, our favorite board games, and the sweater he gave me. My chest tightened with every box I taped closed, but I no longer felt the urge to ask him to reconsider. At his desk, I left a note listing the steps he might take if he ever changed his heart. Not as a demand, but as a map in case he needed it. I saw the calendar we had filled with anniversaries and doctor appointments, and it felt overwhelming. I peeled it off the wall and left it folded next to our cat carrier. Outside, I slid my key into the lock and turned it one final time. I backed away and exhaled the breath I had been holding since I admitted my affair. The world felt oddly quiet without the echo of his footsteps behind me. I walked to the bus stop and watched gray clouds roll in over the city. I was leaving behind our home and the person I hurt the most, who hurt me back the most. I still loved him, but knew love alone could not rebuild what was broken. I stepped onto the bus and let the doors close on our past. Nowadays, guilt gnaws at me when I catch my reflection in the bathroom mirror, as if I'm seeing his face flicker behind mine, reminding me of every promise I shattered. Nights stretch endlessly, interrupted only by the memory of his voice telling me our marriage was over. I wander through days numb, the weight of what I've done bearing down so heavily I sometimes can't draw breath. And I realize there is no light at the end of this tunnel, only the slow, relentless drip of time until I learn to live with the emptiness I created. Story 2. Talking about sexual dynamics with my BS. We had a healthy sex life pre-affair. After the affair was discovered, some things have changed. We've talked about it plenty. He won't do kissing, oral. He doesn't want me to speak anything during sex, and there shouldn't be any long eye contact. He also generally tends to be rougher. And I'm okay with these changes. It's not that I dislike the rougher kind of sex, in fact, I quite enjoy it. But I don't want it all the time. Most of the time, I crave some intimacy, some gentleness. Pre-affair, our sex was more of passionate lovemaking. Now it's just animalistic fucking. It's not that he cannot be intimate with me. Outside of sex, we cuddle with each other all the time. Sometimes we sleep naked. He has also slowly become okay with kissing me again. It's only during sex that he shuts down his feelings and behaves like a stranger. I understand that sex is hard for him with all the triggers and mind movies. We're more than 3 years out. Sex after D-Day has been sporadic. For the first 2 years, we went through periods of intense, hysterical bonding, followed by months of no sex. For the last 6-7 months, we've been intimate regularly. I don't wish to make demands, I only want to have a conversation about it. He seems very pleased with how far we have come and acts very lovingly towards me all the time. But during sex, he turns into a stranger. It's such a contrast, and it's also hauntingly familiar to me. To me, he seems to be doing some form of compartmentalization so he can avoid thinking too much about sex. I'm sure there are many difficult emotions behind what he's doing. My affair was long-term and very physical, and there's no detail he doesn't know. I won't be making any assumptions about how he's feeling, but he did obsess a lot over the nature of the affair, how predominantly physical it was. I don't know what's going on in his head. Does he plan to keep it this way forever? Does he recognize that this is a result of his betrayal trauma? Is he talking about it in therapy? Will he be open to consulting with a sex therapist? Or is he actually okay with how things are right now? I want to talk to him about these things. I will not make demands. I simply wish to have a conversation. But I don't know if it is a good idea to have this conversation at all. Am I just being inconsiderate and selfish by wanting to talk about it? He's clearly okay with how things are right now. Is this conversation even necessary? Is it fair of me to ask him to talk about such complex and painful emotions? Besides, won't it just come across as me complaining about sex to him? I don't normally hesitate to initiate hard conversations regardless of the shame it brings me, but this issue seems to be so intricately tied with his trauma and painful emotions. And I don't even know if it's actually an important conversation or if I'm just focusing too much on myself and not enough on him. The imbalance feels painful for both partners. On one side, his way of protecting himself leads to shutting down all intimacy during sex. On the other side, you miss the gentle passion you used to share. It is reasonable to want to talk about how these changes affect your connection without demanding immediate fixes. Pick a time when you are both relaxed and let him know you understand how hard this must be for him. You might ask if he would be open to trying a brief moment of eye contact or a soft caress before things escalate, just to see how it feels. If that feels overwhelming, he can pause at any point. Keeping it short and low pressure may help him feel safer opening up. If you find it too difficult on your own, you could suggest involving a professional who specializes in trauma-informed sex therapy. This kind of support could give you both tools to move past triggers and rediscover what intimacy means for you as a couple. Wanting a mix of animalistic release and affectionate closeness is not selfish. Talking it through could help him understand that you still see him as the person you fell in love with, not a stranger.